Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are
Propelled by Plants. Today we bring to you episode 293, Beating Cancer and Losing 300 Pounds with Justin and Erin Greener.
We really enjoyed this conversation that we had with Justin and Erin Greener. We talked about their transformational story. Together, they lost over 300 pounds, and their whole family is healthier because of it. We love sharing these transformational stories with you because it gives you insight into what other people have experienced and how hard it was for them to really overcome what was going on in their life and be able to thrive today. And hopefully that will inspire some of you to share this out with others who need to make that transformation as well.
And I think it's important that we all realize that it's possible. Things are possible. Change is possible. We are able to find motivation, and that's what we talk about at some point during the show, how motivation is so important in finding motivation that's going to lead you to making the change, and that's really what's going to drive you to do that. So it was a great conversation, a lot of great tips that we shared on how to make that transformation. But what I really liked about it was how it wasn't just Justin. He had the support from Erin, and the whole family got involved in making that transformation.
And because we got so detailed on a lot of the story and a lot of the emotions and feelings and all of these other things that were going on, we didn't get to those changes that actually happened from becoming plant-based. So there were huge changes, big and small. Of course, I mentioned already that they lost combined of 300 pounds, but just by changing the way they ate, of course, he survived his cancer, but they cleared so many other diseases and issues that were going on, like gout and sleep apnea and pre-diabetes, all of these other things that happened, not just for Erin and Justin, but also for the children as well. So we really wanted to make sure that you understood that it wasn't just about losing weight, but there were so many other small things that they were just living with, thought that it was normal, and now that's gone.
To grab the show notes and get all the links to everything we talk about in the show, you can go to planttrainers.com/293 and you'll find everything there. We know you're going to really love this story, so please share it out so other people can hear it too.
I know exactly what you're thinking. What do I make for dinner? How am I going to get it done? How could I possibly stay so organized that I won't have to run to the grocery store midweek? How do I know what you're thinking? Because I'm always getting emails, PMs, DMs, and I even get stopped in the grocery store to be asked the same thing. So this is what I want. I want you to be the master of meal planning. Just click on the link in the show notes or go to planttrainers.com/shop and I'll walk you through how to plan, shop, and prep for a full week's worth of food so you don't have to get the takeout that makes you feel bad and bloated, so you don't have to stay up till 10 o'clock at night making a perfect meal, because let's face it, that's not going to help your health either. You need to be exercising, talking to loved ones, binging on Netflix. You can choose how to spend your extra time, but you don't need to spend that extra time running to the grocery store in the middle of the week, in the kitchen, or wondering what to make. Go to planttrainers.com/shop, click on the Meal Planning Mastery link, and for $27, become a rock star.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
I've been having some small conversations with people who have been emailing us, asking questions or giving feedback from the podcast, which we totally appreciate all the time. And I've just been hopping on the phone with them for 10-15 minutes to get to know some of you. And I'm so grateful that you do reach out, but that also I'm able to connect with you and hear what's going on in your life, so that when we are creating content, putting it out on social media, or even creating these podcasts, we make sure that they are something that you care about.
I'm grateful for the incredible amount of interactions we've been having on our Instagram profile, following our stories on Instagram and our posts, the likes, but more importantly, the comments and the interaction that people are providing, the feedback, and just the banter, the communication. It's just been a lot of fun to really share what's going on in our lives and knowing that we're helping make an impact in yours. So thank you. And if you're not yet following us on Instagram, don't forget to check us out at Plant Trainers.
Justin and Erin Greener, thank you so much for joining us on the Plant Trainers podcast today.
Well, thank you for having us. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Do you have a moment of gratitude to share with us and our listeners?
I do. Erin, you want to go ahead first?
Mine is the sunshine. Sunshine came out a little bit this morning, and it was so wonderful to see it. However, it is behind clouds again, so a little bit of sun that we got this morning was awesome.
It's kind of gloomy in the UK.
Yeah,
It
very.
can be. Mine would be for a creator that gives us the ability to do something like this platform to share our successes and hopefully encourage others. And so to basically bring us all the way down to rock bottom and then give us the platform to share that so others may learn from our mistakes and wins as well.
Well, we're happy to provide this platform for you to share your story with others. It's going to be very inspiring, and we hope that it helps other people on their journeys as well. It's sad sometimes that we need to hit rock bottom to kind of make these changes, and we'll get into that more, but it does create so much more positivity in our own lives and allows us to help others.
You bet. It enriches it, I believe, the experience.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit before you hit rock bottom. What was your family like on a day-to-day basis? What was your lifestyle, basically?
You know, every day was just sort of a struggle to make it to bed at night, you know, and then making it to bed at night was a struggle as well because sleep apnea started to set in later on in life. So every day was, you know, you're carrying around this extra 200 to 250 pounds of excess weight. And that is, I mean, as you would imagine, a struggle. So, you know, everything from waking up in the morning, putting on clothes, going to work every day and trying to maintain this professional look while carrying around this excess weight was daunting. And so it drains you, takes away your motivation. Any kind of fun was entertainment setting down, but you just didn't really care to be out in public and stayed in all the time. So it was a pretty sad existence day in, day out, but we made the best of it. Erin was always there doing things with the kids. I was inside most of the time on my laptop working because I was good at that. And so they went out and experienced things, but it wasn't, you know, a life of full of experience, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, the activities we would do definitely were slower paced, nothing, no like big hikes or big family excursions. It was, you know, a bike ride around the block. It was walking to the little park down the street. Very simple task, you know, go outside and, you know, I mean, just simple, easy to do activities, mostly followed by a treat of some sort.
And I think, I mean, a great example of what our life was before and what it was after was the before was our vacation was centered on food.
Yeah.
I remember multiple vacations where we took when we were living in Delaware, where we would do road trips to Maine to get lobster.
Yeah, literally just go to Maine to get lobster and just have like
It was
lobster
a celebration.
fest the whole trip.
A lobster fest in our hotel room. And so our vacations were centered on the celebration of food at that point, really. So yeah, that was our life, was trying to acquire as many things as possible through work, but ultimately it was focused on food.
So you hit on a few things there. So day to day, when you were walking to the park or doing those tasks that seem really easy to you now, were those extremely difficult to actually get up and do? And did you think about how your weight was holding you back then?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you become accustomed to those situations.
you get used to the aches and pains, and it just becomes a daily routine of like,
yeah,
you just accept it.
And you put things in your life to assist you. So a great example of that was before and after. Was before we lived on a little lake in a town, and so we had a pontoon boat, and the pontoon was literally, because it was motorized, and would motor us around the lake. You know, after we got fit, we sold the pontoon and got kayaks because we wanted to do activities, but our life revolved around assistance to help you move and function and facilitate yourself. And whether that's air conditioning or pontoon boats, it was just to try to stay comfortable because you're carrying this massive load every day. But you just become used to sweating or aches and pains, and one more pain is nothing new, that your knees hurt or your shoulder hurts or your back hurts or sciatica is flaring up or whatever it is. You just become accustomed to it.
And so the picture that you've painted of the before seems to be something that a lot of people are struggling with. And when they're in that moment, they don't really notice it so much because it's their normal. And I guess at what point did you realize that your normal needed to change?
It never really dawned on me that there was an option until I got plugged into the community of healthy eating. Like it really, every year, every New Year's was a New Year's resolution of losing weight, but it was never a realistic resolution, meaning we never executed on it. It never was successful. You just said it to say it. You didn't see people losing weight, massive amounts of weight successfully. It was just something that was never going to happen. So there was never a moment before it happened that I could say that I knew it was available to me or to us. It just was a snowball that kept rolling and rolling down the hill, and it just continued to get worse, and there was no light at the end of the tunnel, it seemed.
Yeah, I know for myself, there was a point that it's like, oh, I can't believe I weigh this much. I can't believe how large I've gotten. But it's like, I couldn't imagine what it would be like to even begin to lose the weight, let alone to like even go, like, how to go about losing the weight. And then how do I, cook for a family? And it was just easier to just not do anything about it because it was so many unknowns. I didn't know what to do, how to do it.
There was nothing that was ever successful. Nothing we ever did to lose the weight was successful, whether everything from calories to, of course, the Atkins and paleo and that kind of nonsense. But there was nothing that was ever successful. So if you ask me, is there a way to speak another language and I can't speak a second language, then I would say, not for me. I can't do that. I know others have done it, but I can't do it because I've never seen that in any way successful. So I can't emulate that or do it myself.
How long ago was this that we're talking about right now?
We're talking from the weight really started to snowball, I would say in 2002 when I left the military. I left on the big boy program, they call it for short, a weight management program. So I left the military overweight, and from 2002 up through the moment that the light bulb went on, 2011, that entire period. But I had struggled personally since adolescence with weight, and only had slightly kept it under control to get into the military. But that was it. I mean, it was like I squeezed into the military within a couple pounds, and it was just the snowball kept rolling. But it paused or hesitated in 1998 when I went into the military, but it just continued on.
And what kind of fears or anxiety did you have about your quality or quantity of life? Was that a day-to-day struggle as well?
We were in our 30s when this all happened, when it all came together, or woke up, I should say. And so in your 30s, I don't think you're quite envisioning heart attacks yet.
Yeah, you don't see that big picture of
you're just still struggling with just moving the weight around, but you're not really thinking, I'm not going to wake up tomorrow morning at 37.
And kids are a really good distraction sometimes to life and what's going on I know for myself, I focused in on them to kind of forget about what was going on with me, which I think made it easier for me to.
Yeah, we weren't, at that point, we were not fearing for our lives. We're putting up with it at that point.
So tell us a little bit about what was that turning point? What made you find veggies?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, it was the summer of 2011, and I don't remember the exact moment that I felt, but I felt a huge lump on my neck. And being 400 pounds, 6'1", 400 pounds, you tend to have a large neck anyway. And so you couldn't visually see it on my neck, but when I pressed on my neck, I could feel a lump on the left side. And that was the summer of 2011. I think we were traveling to Charleston at the time. And I was kind of just putting up with it, kind of ignoring it. I think back to this time and I think to myself, how did I not run to the doctor at that point? But I'm one of those people that just may ignore something that's so obvious like that. And I remember Erin was giving me a neck rub and she felt that, right? You felt that lump.
Yeah, I was just like blown away. I was like, what is this on the side of your neck? This thing is huge.
I'm like, oh yeah, that.
It's been there for months.
It's been there for a month.
Never said anything, never told me. I had no idea.
So that was leading into
I would
the
have
fall.
slapped you silly.
Oh, yeah. I still will think back and be like, I can't believe you had that for so long.
Yeah.
I was talking to Adam when I said that, by the way, not you.
But you can slap him too.
but you know, it's scary for, you know, because I've been there with Adam's, you know, with Adam's whole story, and
Yes.
it's really scary because that's when you start to think,
Yeah.
I'm in this alone, right?
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely. And so we lived with that through the fall, and we'd actually traveled up near you by Trenton that fall, and I was driving home and I was talking to my mother and on the phone as I was driving home, and she said that my brother, who's 2 years older, had just been to the doctor and he had this thing on his neck operated on, and it was this cyst that was non-cancerous cyst from some gill that you have as a child that doesn't drain properly. And I thought, oh, well, there's the answer. It's not cancer. It's this cyst. It's hereditary.
Yeah, it was like the same side of the neck.
Same side of everything.
Same.
So, I mean, what are the chances that I have this huge lump on my neck, and my brother, 2 years older, has the exact same lump that we hadn't communicated the same thing, but he went to the doctor and they cut this thing out, you know, and I thought, oh, great, it's not cancer. Whew, that's close, right?
Close call.
So I might as well make a doctor's appointment now that I've diagnosed myself that it's not cancer. So I made a doctor's appointment, and I went in, and it was, I think, you know, I still think it had taken me a couple months at that point. And so I went in February, and I remember standing in the doctor's office, and he walked in, and whenever a doctor is surprised by something protruding off your body, that's probably not a good response or a response that you're looking for, because they pretty much see everything. And he was pretty freaked out. And he's
very concerned.
He was very concerned. He started using the words like stat, CT scans. Oh no, that's cancer. He wasn't. You know, I was like trying to explain the cyst story, and my brother, and no, it's not cancer. He had a cyst, and he's like, no, that's not what that is. And so I was rushed through to different hospitals in our town to get different scans, and immediately, within a couple of days, met with the oncologist, and right away, you know, they walked in like, oh no, you got cancer. And I believe they wanted to do fine needle aspiration or fine needle biopsy, and they sucked. And you know, at that point, to kind of describe it better, I had about 85 cc's of blood. So that's a small motorcycle engine on my neck. And what come to find out is my thyroid gland had essentially sort of imploded or exploded in my neck, and it was a big bag of blood, and it filled up, and so it was pushing on my carotid artery, and that in turn was, of course, you know, I'm already in pretty bad shape weight-wise and health-wise. That wasn't helping the already sort of heart situation I've been experiencing up until that point, where I was feeling some tingling, numbness in my arms and things like that on the left side that I didn't tell Erin about either. And so all those things were sort of feeding together, and what they were really concerned was I was going to have a stroke because of cutting off the blood supply somehow, or extra blood or whatever. And so they did the fine needle aspiration, diagnosed it, and so it was set. It was set to it was cancer, and we're gonna rip it out. And so at that point, I had not made any sort of connection with diet, lifestyle, veggies at that point.
And the doctors hadn't made any connection with that either.
No. It was cut, burn, poison, right? We gotta cut it out, then we're gonna poison it, you know. And so that was the plan. The game plan was cut it out, then we're gonna put you through ablation, which is when they radiate you with a iodine-laced radiation. You know, you sign a waiver for 11 or 15 other cancers that you're probably going to get because of this treatment. And so that was the plan. At that same time, I spoke to my brother, and he said, hey, you got to watch this movie while you're waiting. And I think that movie was actually Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, which I don't really attribute the big aha moment to, but it sort of opened the door to, of course, the big aha moment was Forks Over Knives.
Yeah.
So we watched the Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, you know, waiting around on a weekend after the big diagnosis. Surgery's coming. It's imminent. We watched this movie, and it's all about how food can help you lose weight, can help heal the body, micronutrients, all these good things. But then we go a step further, and we watched the Forks Over Knives the same weekend, And that's when, I mean, Forks Over Knives is the primer to health and how to live healthfully.
Of course, it was for us and for many other listeners who we have listening and for many other people who we've interviewed on the show. Was it Netflix that had recommended to you? You've watched Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, so watch Forks Over Knives.
Yes.
How did you find the Forks Over Knives?
That was exactly how it's happened. The algorithm of Netflix fed it right into the next one. And it, you know, we've watched so many other ones since then, but I mean, there's just been nothing like the message that Forks Over Knives so clearly put in, especially at that time. You know, the time you're willing to listen at that point. You know, you've literally hit rock bottom as far as everything you're doing has not worked. And so we watched the movie, and I remember my daughter, she's real supportive in any kind of rash decision I was willing to make at the time. I'm like, let's just start juicing. I don't know what to do.
Let's just start.
But let's just start with something, right? So it was that weekend. We ran into the store, and I think we bought every cruciferous type vegetable we could possibly juice.
Green.
Yeah, anything that was green. And let me tell you, it was probably not the wisest choices. I think there was some bok choy juicing going on. It's not pleasant. That's definitely a vegetable that should be cooked. But we were juicing them all. Yeah, so I started it off with, you know, no real guidance from anybody. Just I did an 8-day juice fast, juice cleanse. And I was definitely on a different track than the rest of my family at that point. Erin and the kids, they were watching me. They knew what was going on, but I was in panic mode. I was in, you know, this is already a set destined road we're going down here, but I'm going to do everything I can to pull us out of this. And so I was focused, laser focused, and I wasn't perfect. I mean, it probably took a solid 3 months of transition time, but we're talking probably like a 90-10 in the first 3 months, 90% all veggies and occasional dairy, or maybe there was, I don't know, a panic moment where you're traveling on the road and you eat something you shouldn't eat, or fish is clean. You know, you have that first couple months where you're thinking, well, maybe I could still eat fish, you know, and then you come to that realization it's just as bad. So it probably took a full 3 months for myself to go 100% plant-based. But Erin and the kids, I'll let Erin speak to that as far as.
Yeah, as far as our transition, we definitely weren't as just jumping right in. It took us probably 6 to 7 months, but because of the timing of it, with the kids still being in public school, they that last few months of school, they were 100% plant-based at home. However, they still got the school lunches. I had no idea how to pack lunches for them, you know, without a ham sandwich, I had no clue. And so that was the turning point, was summertime, and I was able to do more research, find recipes. And so by the time they started back school, they were plant-based even at school, packing them lunches. And so it took us a good, probably about 6 months to make through that transition.
I remember, so my decision was at the end of March, and I think as a family, actually, I think, you know, there was definitely some transitional foods as far as vegan foods, if you will, but I believe I can remember the date. It was the last time that we had a traditional standard American diet meal, and that was because we were traveling late at night. We pulled in Cracker Barrel in the middle of Ohio, traveling in the middle of the United States, and we're just a mess. And we had a meal at that restaurant, and I said, never again will we do that. Are we going to catch ourselves, you know, at this 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night to have this, you know, food in us that we don't want. So that was June 27th. 2012.
I guess a lot of it is breaking the habits that you had before, because a year before that would have been completely normal to you.
No, man, that would have been desired.
Yeah. That was like once a day. Like that would,
Yeah. So that's where the aha moment was, watching the movies. At that point, I started reading the books. You know, I started off with Eat to Live, and then I rolled into the China study. And then again, it was kind of I enjoy the message in Eat to Live, but there was still that 90-10 allowance that I look back now and go, that's not right to allow those, or give allowance to that.
There's so much more great information coming your way, but before we get to that, we wanted to share with you and let you know that
podcasting is like the street performing of radio. Street performers make up their acts, plan, prepare, and get all dressed up. Podcasters seduce guests into coming onto the show, prepare the show, and get the best recording gadgets. Street performers lure their audience in with a great opening act. Podcasters are constantly finding unique ways to let others know what's going on. Street performers have foot traffic to lure in, and podcasters have to work hard to get themselves out there. Street performers come back day after day because they love the way that people look when they laugh and are entertained. Podcasters come back week after week because they're passionate about their message and are humbled by how many people they help. Every now and again, you come across a performance that excites you, that you enjoy, that you can relate to, and then you throw a couple of bucks in the pot. Well, that pot for podcasters is called Patreon. It's a unique way that listeners can show their appreciation and help cover some of the hosting costs and hours of hard work that it takes to put shows out like this. So if you're feeling like this show lights you up, helps you, informs you, or maybe entertains you, we would be grateful for your donation at patreon.com/planttrainers. Even $1 helps us cover costs and ramp up our game. Thank you to those who already contribute and to those who will.
And now back to the show. So before we actually get more detailed into the transition of the whole entire family, because I think it's important that we do get there, I think it's really important that we are sharing your transition story, because there's so many people out there that are in similar situations to you, but there's also so many people that are out there that are in similar situations that I was in. And I'm saying that because it's not always easy to know if there's something going wrong on the inside of your body when you don't have those physical symptoms, when you don't see someone who's overweight, or you don't see that lump in your neck. And while I didn't have a cancerous tumor, I did have one on the inside that had a huge impact on where I'm at in my life now. And so people that feel healthy, think they're healthy, are in shape, are fit, are working out, are eating what they think is a healthy lifestyle, they need to go to a doctor at least once a year and have their physical to make sure they actually are okay. And sometimes people like me who think they're in great shape, feeling good on the inside and outside, learn that they're not as healthy as they thought they were. So it's a lot harder for people like me to know when there's a problem. And for those that never suspect, it just happens all of a sudden sometimes, and we need to learn how to deal with it. For the people that are in your situation where you could physically see when someone's overweight or if they don't look as healthy as they can, it's easier for them to want to make a change in their life. Does that make sense?
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is so eloquent the way you put that, because it is, all, like I said in our bio, it's a blessing to have had all of those diseases or sicknesses and the cancer ultimately, and be able to see the cancer. Just like you said, I mean, to have cancer inside your body and not know about it is, I mean, it's a lot harder to make those changes if you don't have something, if you don't have a mirror to look in.
Just 2 weeks ago, someone said to us, I wish I had the discipline to do what you did. And I know that if I were in a situation where I had to do it for my health, I would do it. But I just don't have that right now. So I'm going to shelve it. And it kills us to hear that, because had Adam said that back then, and or if he was in the same situation and he had known we had no idea about a plant-based diet and what it can do, what it could prevent, what it could reverse. But if he had heard the information and not made the change, and his outcomes would have been different, if he would have gotten around to that heart attack, like how do you wait when you know? You don't say, I'm going to wait to have a car accident before I start wearing my seatbelt.
Right.
I'm going to wait till my driving's not so great.
Well, some people do.
Some people do. Well, some people do. And there's always some people, right? Like when we speak, no matter what we say, there's always a big percentage of people that fall into that category, and there's always people who don't. But it just boggles me after, I mean, Erin, you must know exactly how I feel after thinking that you can lose your partner, that you'll have to raise your children alone. How do you not take those steps to make sure that that's never you?
Oh, it definitely was a eye opener for sure. Because it was one of those things where to be with him for so long, we'd been married for probably 15 years. And, you have kids and you're just like, how can I do this alone? Like I couldn't even begin to fathom the idea of not having him with me on, in life. And it really did make you think about your own health. Like, well, I have to be healthy for my kids if he doesn't pull through, if he doesn't make it. And, and also start setting an example for them of what a healthy day-to-day life looks like for them, to be that example for them. And it was a big drastic change that, because I had migraines, little things that just nagged me, but nothing like what he was getting ready to go through.
I think that's what makes our relationship has been the ability to change when the other is changing, to change with them. And so that's what makes Erin such a wonderful spouse, is that she's been able to suffer with me. She didn't have the cancer, but she still had to suffer with me with the cancer. And so it gave her the inspiration, I believe, just watching me suffer.
For sure.
And so it was super difficult. And back to the point of your question or your statement about how do you convince somebody that doesn't have an outwardly showing disease or something, that's the beautiful part about the plant-based movement or the lifestyle, is you have the other two foundations in which this diet makes sense, and that's for the planet and for animals. And so for our children, that was really, yes, they didn't want to see their father suffer, but again, they're super healthy at 15 and 10, they're little,
they're not thinking about heart disease
but they could instantly go towards planet concerns as soon as you showed them the link to that. And then of course, the suffering of animals for their needs, for their food. So that is the beautiful part about this whole lifestyle, is it's not just a single soul inward, focused health. It's outward and inward. And so that was how we changed as a family, was watching me suffer, watching me get better, Erin adapting and changing with us, but also using the other parts of the lifestyle, the healthiness, the healthy behaviors, the healthy relationships that just came with it, that came when you got off, stopped eating the meats and stopped being fat, sick, and nearly dead, is, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah, we had a family movie night. One night they were showing Cowspiracy at a local theater, and we got tickets ahead of time for the screening so they could book it. And that was like a fun outing for us, is that we as a family went and saw Cowspiracy. Mm-hmm. And, it was like whenever we sat down to watch something, the kids sat and watched with us. We wanted them to, we weren't going to sneak extra veggies into their food. And we wanted them to know why we were doing this, the benefits, not just to us, but again, to the earth, to animals. And, we kept them in the loop 100%.
And so how did the kids adapt outside of the house?
So, I'll let Erin respond to that.
They did pretty good. I think there was a few times, birthday parties at school, kind of, for the youngest one was kind of probably a bummer. He was at third and fourth grade at the time. Luckily, I worked at the school as well. And so I knew when, Halloween parties were coming up, and I would usually try to bring in something special for him that I would make at home. And the teachers were always really understanding.
I remember that one time, was it his birthday?
There was like an ice cream.
Ice cream reward in this classroom. And so I had just happened to be home that day. And so I made him the three favorite ice creams, if you will, the banana ice cream, banana in the Vitamix, frozen banana, and I made it, I think, a peanut butter one, and a strawberry one, and a chocolate one. Mm-hmm. And I remember going down to the gas station and getting the ice cream cups that you get when you buy,
the styrofoam
ice cream cups, and putting an ice cream in those styrofoam cups, and then bringing those to school. And then he was able to hand those out to kids.
Yes, ask his friends, hey, do you want to try this?
And it was a big moment, so it was like a celebration of a really healthy alternative to, everybody else had their ice cream and he had his ice cream, and it all looked like a commercialized product. So
so we always tried to find ways that they could still be a part of whatever the activity was that they were involved in, yet they were covered with food from home, pretty much. It was
probably too much sometimes.
I do a lot of planning with a lot of my clients just on birthday parties and school events and family events, and making sure that the kids never feel like they are missing out, and that they actually feel like not only are they not missing out, but theirs is going to make them run faster, and theirs is going to make them sleep better, and it's going to empower them to make good choices and encourage their friends to do the same.
Absolutely. There's not a shortage of healthy plant-based desserts out there. I mean, you could make plant-based desserts every day of this calendar year and still not run out of amazing desserts. People like Chef AJ have created some, she's executive pastry chef and vegan pastry chef, and does some amazing recipes. And I remember the kids, I mean, one Christmas we had who could make the best dessert.
Yeah, we had like a dessert bake-off.
Yeah, and so make it a game. And so there was never this feeling of come Christmas time, you didn't have all these confectionery treats. You have these healthy vegan options or plant-based options, and it's just not an issue. But it's like I've always said about living this way, the only thing that I do miss is convenience. That's the only. I don't miss any of the foods. I don't miss any of the behaviors of what comes along with it. Sometimes I miss the convenience of you always have to be planning and doing. But it's a good challenge.
It's worth it.
Absolutely.
So I think the convenience component has gotten a little bit easier in recent years. I know in the US and Canada, things are moving more towards a plant-based lifestyle. Canada's food guy is now promoting more of a plant-based lifestyle. Fast food chains are starting to offer plant-based options. Things are really progressing in a positive way, and they're talking about 2019 being the year of the plant-based lifestyle. Since you guys are living currently in the UK, I'm wondering, how's the availability of plant-based foods over there right now? And do you see change happening currently in the UK?
We live in a small population, about 30,000 people, this small town, and they're probably one of the most successful restaurants in the town is vegetarian vegan. And just this year, they came out with, they're going
all vegan.
All vegan. So they got rid of all the dairy in their restaurant. And that restaurant had to expand because it's so successful this last year. So they not only are successful vegetarian vegan, but they actually went full vegan and still are really successful.
It's always busy. It's, if anybody says, oh, you're vegan or plant-based, oh, have you went, to this place? It's really popular. And
so there's these pop-up vegan restaurants all over the place. There's these very super successful vegan restaurants. However, to fool yourself and say, oh, it's just the United States that have the bad choices. I mean, it's everywhere. All the processed food is everywhere. So it's no different in that sense that you can get some pretty bad stuff here. But I would like to say that they definitely honor freshness a little bit more. There's probably not as many junk food vegan options in the grocery stores you'd find maybe back in the States, from what I remember.
I think there's quite a few.
Yeah, there's quite a few, but you can't get like the Impossible Burger yet at very many grocery stores and things like that. But there's definitely options. They're definitely aware of it. It's not, I would say the United States and Canada, the new guidelines coming out, that is massive. That is huge.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's so nothing like that, but it's great.
So we definitely need to distinguish between the vegan diet, right? Those vegan foods that we're getting in the vegan restaurants where there is still saturated fat in it, right? Like lots of oils, not what you want to be eating on a day-to-day basis when you're trying to lose 300 pounds as a family or, really change your life, heal from diseases. But if people have checked out Plant Trainers on Instagram, we've been having a lot of fun with our memes lately, and we put out a meme, and it said basically is that in the UK the number of people identified as being vegan has increased by 350% in the last 10 years, which is huge. So when we say how can this be more convenient on a whole food plant-based level, we also see grocery stores creating bags that have cut and washed broccoli already, or cauliflower that's already been riced, right? So it's not just about going to the grocery store and buying that pre-made burrito and bringing it home and putting it in the microwave. If you want to eat whole food most of the time, you could buy all kinds of vegetables that have already been cut up and frozen to be able to make your soup. So convenience is really there for more of a whole food, plant-based lifestyle as well, if you want to start leaving out that junk food. And I think that no matter what food groups you're eating from, if you want to eat more of a healthier diet, if you want it to be cleaner, let's say cleaner, you still need to be planning, right?
Absolutely.
So it's not necessarily specific to plant-based. It's just you want to be eating less pre-made foods, less salt, less sugar, less fat put into the foods. You've got to be cooking on your own. So it's not just an issue in this part of life. It's for everybody who wants to be making a difference. And eventually they'll stumble across Forks Over Knives on their Netflix as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I in no way am looking down on them. I mean, we lived the transitional period as well. I mean, everything from the fake vegan cheese to the veggie burgers,
the smart dogs,
the smart dogs.
Yeah.
And so we lived all of that. And I would just encourage the listener to continue to do the research and find out the other options that are available that are healthier, just like you said, lower salt, sugar, and oil, the fattier foods, and find the better alternatives. But whenever you have to make that transition, I understand that's all part of it, and some people stay in that part, and it's still better than a lot of other things going on out there. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you guys have been through a lot of huge challenges over the last several years, and I'm wondering if you can maybe give our listeners some tips on where to begin a transition if they're looking to start, but they don't know where to really go to. So maybe because of what you've gone through, you could figure out or share with us something that has changed in your life because of it and how those people listening can go in that direction.
That's great question. And so often living this lifestyle, everybody is curious, veggie curious, if you will, and they'll want to know, and they'll ask that, well, how do I start? And ultimately, my story might inspire you, might encourage you, but it's not going to motivate you. The motivation will leave awfully quickly. Might be motivated for 10 minutes. But ultimately, you're going to have to find your own motivation. I think a famous saying that I've heard that I really like is you have to find the why that makes you cry. And so you have to find your own inspiration and motivation to make that transition. And so I think, and I do believe until something else comes out that's better, again, the first step, just watch Forks Over Knives.
Yeah.
Just watch it, take notes. This is what I tell people. Take notes, make it a college course.
Or even watch it twice. There's
right.
So much information.
At least twice.
Yeah.
And then let's talk. So I don't have to waste my breath trying to misquote something. You just watch the facts, then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Because ultimately we can inspire, but you got to find your own motivation. And that's the hard part for a lot of people. What we've learned over the years, helpful tips and tricks, things that have made it easier, is getting away from the processed foods and more towards the whole plant food. That probably makes it a lot easier in the end, because you don't have that constantly hammering on your brain that causing you to overeat and crave the certain foods if you just get those things out of your life. So I would recommend trying to make that transition to the whole plant food versus the processed food. Probably one of the biggest secrets out there that I really adore is it's sort of within the movement of the Chef AJ, Dr. Lyle, and Dr. Goldhammer. It's mastering your environment. You don't have to be a perfectionist in the food and the choices that you make, but be a perfectionist in cleaning your environment. Because if those foods are not available in your cupboards or easy to get to, there's a less likelihood or a lower chance that you're going to walk all the way to the store or drive to the store to get it, because it's not convenient. So that's probably the number one takeaway that I've learned over the 7 years of eating this way, is keeping a clean environment. And if you can master your environment, you don't have to necessarily master the diet, because mastering the lifestyle, it's everywhere. I mean, all this food is on every shelf. It's in every every ad, all the TVs, all the news, it's everywhere. And so the only thing you really have control over a lot of times is your own house. Sometimes it's just a little part of the fridge, but mastering your environment is probably, I would say, key when it comes to applying the knowledge. But getting the knowledge, just watch Forks Over Knives. Lead you to the China study if you like to read books. But that would be my advice. Erin, did you have?
Mine, I guess, is more broad because I know a lot of times, especially if you're dealing with families, they want to know, oh my gosh, how do you cook? And through the whole time, I didn't do meals for everybody. Like I wasn't cooking meat or I wasn't something plant-based for Justin. Like we were all eating the same thing. And so for me, definitely planning. We buy a lot of things in bulk, beans and rice. So that's been super helpful. And having certain kitchen tools that make life easier. We love our Vitamix. I don't think there's a single day that goes by that I don't use our Instapot.
We went through 5 or 6 Instapots now.
Yeah, I think
not because they're
we just literally wear them out. We travel with them.
It's like they went through a rock polisher sometimes.
Yeah. And finding little, like traveling with steamed potatoes wrapped in saran wrap, because if you find yourself, stuck in an airport, you're already prepared. You already have something to eat, and, you won't end up making a bad choice or a choice that you regret. So planning ahead. And one thing that I am constantly trying to work at, and sometimes I'm not the best at, is getting the kids involved in the kitchen. I think that's really important and a good tip to make it a family thing, not just a mom or a dad thing. And
your meal preps. The meal preps are
amazing. Doing meal preps. I work all week, and so trying to make a big batch of curry to last us through the week for dinner. And
you make salads for both of us. Our lunches are huge salads.
Yeah, salads at lunch. The weekend's food prepping.
That sounds a lot like us, definitely. And I think that there's so many different ideas for people to start with. If they're doing some of it already, think about what you can add. If you're not anywhere yet, you've given some really basic things. Let's start by just making it convenient, making it in the house for us so that we can make those good choices. Those are some really great tips. So thank you so much. We wanted to know if anybody wanted to kind of see what's going on in your life or reach out, where can they find you on social media?
Well, we're both on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, but it's friend us up.
Yeah, it's mostly just our lives. We like to travel as much as we can, and
that's probably one of the biggest transformation gains since the transformation. What do we do differently? And we travel a lot, and our travels are usually based on adventuring, hiking. I'll throw it out there on live.
Oh no!
I think this summer we're gonna attempt the GR20, which is the 8th hardest hike in the world across Corsica from nose to tail, 110-mile hike, and so that's our relaxation now is massive.
If you
hikes.
could tell your 10-year ago self that that's what your vacation was going to be, what would you have said to yourself?
Oh, that not me. No way.
Not me. I remember this is probably the greatest quote from my starting the weight loss journey. And I remember sitting out on the front step, drinking a huge fresh juice that I had just made, talking to Erin about 2 months into eating this way. And that's when I really decided to start exercising. And I said to her, this diet is dangerous. I said, I am still 380 pounds and I feel amazing. And that is a testament to how powerful it is. Still overweight, still sick, just come out of cancer surgery, but for 2 months eating this way, and I felt like I was 180 pounds and perfectly in shape.
It's been really great talking to you guys. We're going to link to your social media in our show notes at planttrainers.com. And we'll also put a link to the article that was written on the Forks Over Knives page so people could read that story if they want to check it out somewhere else, because I think it was a pretty great article. And it's amazing that Forks Over Knives has you on their page after inspiring you to change your entire life. Thank you guys so much for being here. Your story is truly inspirational, and I know that our listeners are going to get so much out of listening to this episode.
You guys are rock stars. We really appreciate it.
Thanks
so
for
much
having us.
Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. We want to make sure that you subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform.
We really appreciate the feedback we receive from you every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans. It really helps other people find us just like you did.
Thanks so much to our patrons. To become a patron, visit us at patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference in the quality of the show.
And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is @PlantTrainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at planttrainers.com for awesome recipes, a list of our services, and of course, our latest podcast.
We encourage you to email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so that we can help you improve your quality of life through nutrition and fitness.
So we hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time and have a healthy day. Or is that too corny?
It's a little cheesy.